I've talked about it because women will not punch down, right? Pretty much, right? But men will. Men will, and they will absolutely not pursue for marriage, but for a fling, for a short term, they will go down just because maybe low hanging fruit, less of a hassle or whatever. And they're not very honest with these women. And I think we're doing ourselves an absolute disservice by doing that, because now, once a woman gets a taste of that, that's her speed, and she thinks that that's what she's supposed to be dealing with from now on.
That's not her level,
right? Otherwise, that's not it. Whereas if I went and I caught a baddie, a dime that particular night, I already know, damn, I got that off. Right? I got that off. And I'm like, oh, but that doesn't mean that now it's all dimes from now on. No. I understand that I got that off. And that's it. So is there a way that we can, and I don't want to say convince them, but have women at least realize that this is a thing, and sometimes these men that they really want don't have the best intentions, and you can't make them.
Winter is coming, and the wall is undefeated. The reality, like, we keep talking about this topic as if we haven't all experienced the reality and truth of how hard it is to change anybody's mind about most things. Most of us, men and women, go off of experience in terms of that's just the reality of it. Yes, it's true. There are going to be some men and some women that learn from their mistakes and adapt and grow and move on. A huge percentage of them are not. Like, when you say men are being dishonest, facts, true. I've been one of those men. Like,
me too.
Right?
I care for it.
Right. So my view is that if we were born in another time in another culture where polygyny was more normalized, where it wasn't unusual for a man of means, of wealth, of status to have 1, 2, 3, 4 wives and or concubines, we wouldn't even be having this discussion right now. The issue is that when you live in modernity, where all the titles are removed, and where women are trying to enforce monogamy, where I will break up with you and I'll divorce you and take you to court and get alimony and child support.
Right.
You've created a market where in the past and previous generations, they accounted for male sexuality, they accounted for male value, and they accounted for male promiscuity, where they acknowledged that this existed, that women would sign up for if he met certain markers. And now in modernity, you don't allow that. So you're taking men that are celebrities, athletes, some of the most desirable men in these given cities, plopping them into modern times, and are expecting them to act different than all men in almost all ancient civilizations throughout the history of time. Where else in any other culture was a man that was a top 1 or 5 or 10% man in the country required to be with one woman for the next 40 to 60 years of his life?
For the record, do you think that it would work better if we were not forced into monogamy?
Yes. 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 And it's not even just speaking as a therapist. Let's just slow down with this logically. A lot of y'all that's going through the divorces, women specifically, if you're coming out too late, now you're competing. If you're in your 40s and you got divorced, you're now trying to compete with women that's in their 40s, 30s, and 20s with the small pool of men that you actually want. You're 40. You probably don't want a 20-year-old. You may not even want a 30-year-old. And a lot of the men that's at your age, if they also are making really good money, they may not be checking for you. So you've created, by the rampant increase of leaving, 70 to 80% of initiations of divorces, the single mother households, the trauma, the struggle to pair bond. When you factor all of these things in, a lot of these things were created because you were trying to take an external law and external consequences to change men's nature.
They're gonna get you for that one.
That's fine. That's fine. But what I will say is this: not all men qualify for that privilege.
Right.
And in the past, that was the case. When women hear me and Miss Ali and other figures speak on the issue about polygyny, I always ask the question: if you had to choose between giving one man 20 chances or 20 men one chance, which would you choose? a lot of women's lifestyles and their actions, if you ask them straight out, I don't tolerate cheating. First or second time, I'm done. Okay, you keep racking up the body count. None of these guys are paying dowries. None of these men are having to meet your family, stand before God, stand before the church or some religious ceremony. They don't have to do any of these things. Y'all are giving them access. You're giving them access to these things, and then you're shocked when most of the men that y'all want don't want marriage. You're leaving the ones that do marry you because they cheated, and the ones that can't cheat because nobody wants them, you don't want them. This is the market you created. The reason why these previous generations, especially 300, 400, 500 plus years ago, was probably not going through these things is because they accounted for what the issues are you're focusing on now. The reality is this was an interesting social experiment. There was some great pros and some great cons, and whether the state recognizes it or not, a lot of y'all are already sharing anyway. You're sharing when you're not married to your baby daddy and he dating somebody else. You're sharing his time, you're sharing his energy, you're sharing his resources. You're sharing a lot. Okay, like this is why I'm not gonna make it long on the internet. Hold on, aren't they sharing?
Listen, you don't have to tell me. I know they share.
First of all, you already sharing. So that thing that was considered a privilege for a man to be able to do something like that, you're allowing men to be able to have options with children and relationships and dating and sex without giving you marriage. And I'm like, the guys who in the past would have been called dukes, earls, right, princes, kings are still running through the women. They just don't have to reap the consequences of getting married or getting remarried.
Right.
So y'all can keep pushing this enforced monogamy thing. That's why men are doing MGTOW, men going their own way. You have men that are opting out of no longer going to clubs. They're no longer pursuing women. They're not asking them out at work anymore. They're not pursuing them at the gym. A lot of these men.
What are they doing?
A lot of these men are prioritizing themselves in terms of happiness and hobbies and keeping themselves busy.
But what are they doing?
They will outsource the sex on a transactional basis.
Okay.
They will go overseas once a
like
season.
Passport Bros?
Yeah, what they're learning and adapting to is the market where women in the West have prioritized their happiness over family, their happiness over marriage.
So I want to ask you about that because a little earlier we spoke about the that there were people from Europe, people from South Africa, everywhere else. Mm-hmm. There's many people who believe that this problem is only here. But I think it's spreading now.
Absolutely.
Right? I think that the state is probably better in some instances, but I think that this ideology, this feminism, is absolutely spreading. Would you explain to those who might be wondering about getting a passport, if that's the thing to do, like, what do you know about what's going on elsewhere?
So not all men's reasons and justifications for doing this is even the same. You have men who can get women here and choose to do it over there because it's just literally cheaper. It's cheaper to buy a home. There's less red tape. There's less back and forth. There's more understanding of traditional roles. So they're like, yeah, I can get women here, but I got to deal with the alimony, the family court, the drama, the social media, the trying to live like Cardi B and this person that. Like, they're like, I can just go to another spot where she ain't even got a social media page. Like, that's not even like a thing. And life is just easier and simpler for them. Then there's also other men who they can't get the women here. So now they have to take their money and their lack of charisma, their lack of fashion, their lack of confidence and go abroad where women are seeing dollar signs above their head and they both understand what it is. The difference is that over there, they still know it's transactional, but they're nicer.
Right.
They're still more feminine. And then you'll have men, like I said before, with MGTOW, men going their own way. There are men who are black-pilled and just simply checking out. They're like,
yeah, black.
And their lens, and this is super duper important to all the women who are confused at why men aren't pursuing them as much anymore. When they're doing the speed dating things, and when all the women arrive, there's no men that showing up to these events. Like, something's going on. And I would argue this It's just a hypothesis. And again, you're right. I'm gonna keep getting killed when I say this. If you owned a store and none of the customers was coming to buy your products, you don't get to say the problem is the customers. The problem is the product. The problem is what's being presented to the public, and the public feeling that what's being presented isn't worth what the price tag is. So if they're seeing other women, so they don't hate women if they're going to other women, right?
Correct.
Whoa. So why are they going to the store across the street and not your store? The lack of self-reflection. It's easier to say it's the men and it's only the men that's the problem, and not saying, yeah, there's things that men need to work on. But when you refuse to look introspectively and you say the reason for the dating market is just only men not measuring up and leveling up, what version of you have you turned into that people will go hundreds or thousands of miles away to replace you? It's just a thought. Well, I wonder if the store owner or the person who has all these products that aren't coming off the shelf is going to reevaluate. Am I estimating the value of these products too high?
Right.
Do I need to switch up my branding? Do I need to evaluate if I'm overestimating what it is that I'm bringing to the table and offering to the public? Why is my store about to close down and I'm about to hit the wall and lose my business versus adjusting to what the customers want? If you are a woman who always gets attention from men because you're a woman and you're beautiful, and you're not ending up with the type of caliber of men you want, I wonder if there's something that you're presenting there's something that you're presenting to them of how they're interpreting your behavior, your words, and your actions that's not matching how you're feeling and thinking you are.